where the Minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, is giving a post-cabinet briefing. She's just taken to the podium. Let's listen in.
To our sign language readers for not being able to have a sign language interpreter. I'll make sure that mistake never happens again. This is the statement of the cabinet meeting held on Wednesday, the 12th of March 2025, which was a day that also coincided with the national budget tabling in the National Assembly. On issues from the environment, on the economy, we start with the national budget. Cabinet welcomed the 2025 national budget, which seeks to maintain a balance between South Africa's fiscal framework, funding the priorities of the 7th administration as articulated by His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa during the State of the Nation address, while mitigating the funding requirements' impact on the poor and the middle-income household. The allocation of over 1 trillion rands to infrastructure development over the MTF, which is the medium-term expenditure framework, the establishment of alternative infrastructure financing through a credit guarantee vehicle, and the introduction of multiple bid windows on the budget facility for infrastructure is a demonstration of a commitment to grow the economy through a strong infrastructure build program, while simultaneously improving service delivery. Mechanisms for private sector participation as announced with the budget, which are part of the Operation Vulindlela-driven reforms in the energy, transport, and freight and logistics sectors, indicate government's commitment to fast-tracking private sector participation and investment in building an inclusive economy. Acknowledging the impact of the tax increases, the budget provides for mitigation measures against the increases, such as no increase in the fuel levy, above inflation increases to social grants, with old age and disability grants increasing by 130 rands to 2,315 by 2025. Significant funding allocation to PRASA to improve passenger rail transport, which will reduce household income spent on transport costs. And this is because South Africa is noted of having one of the highest income distribution in terms of the income expenditure on transport globally. More significantly, the taxes increases are going to finance sustainability of this country by maintaining 1,000 teachers in the classrooms, 9,300 health workers in their jobs, the employment of 800 community service doctors, and allow an additional 700,000 children of the age of 4 years to access early childhood development, which is necessary foundation education they need for a successful education journey. On economic growth, the 0.6% increase in the fourth quarter GDP for 2024 signals a recovery across the economy as the agriculture, finance, trade and household sectors grew in the last quarter of the year. The agricultural industry rebounded by 17.2%, lifting GDP growth by 0.4 of a percentage point. The finance, real estate and business services industry grew for an 8th consecutive quarter, with financial intermediary, real estate activities and other business services being the largest positive contributors to growth. Cabinet is confident that the increased focus and pace of delivery on economic structural reforms, improved service delivery and state capacity, and increased participation of the private sector will spur further growth of the economy in 2025 and beyond. On investments, Cabinet welcomed the announcement by Microsoft South Africa to invest 5.4 billion rands in artificial intelligence infrastructure in the country. This investment will strengthen South Africa's position as a leading artificial intelligence hub on the African continent and builds on Microsoft South Africa's 20.4 billion rands investment over the past 3 years. Microsoft South Africa has also announced their contribution to developing South Africa's digital literacy by paying for technical certification for 50,000 individuals in high-demand digital skills. In further uplifting our investment profile, Indian car manufacturer, Mahindra, signed a memorandum of understanding with the South Africa's Industrial Development Corporation, the IDC, to explore the possibility of setting up a full-scale vehicle assembly plant in South Africa. Mahindra already has an assembly plant of pickup range of vehicles in Durban, operated by AIH Logistics, where we recently celebrated the production of their 25,000 locally assembled pickup vehicles. Cabinet reminded every South African as direct shareholder in South Africa Incorporated of their vested interest in promoting our country's investment as an investment destination in a globally competitive environment. We must continue to speak with one voice in defense of our national interest, our sovereignty, and our constitutional democracy. On international relations, on South Africa's presidency of the G20. As part of its G20 presidency, South Africa successfully hosted the following G20 working groups and task force meetings during this month. The first is the first anti-corruption working group meeting, which took place in Cape Town on the 3rd to the 5th of March, which explored mechanisms to enhance the implementation of legal instruments to fight corruption. This meeting was an opportunity for participants to establish the agenda and lay the groundwork for future discussions, encouraging dialogue and collaboration to strengthen anti-corruption strategies. During this meeting, participants discussed and agreed on several key priorities, the three of them being: 1, strengthening public sector integrity; 2, increasing asset recovery efficiency; 3, inclusive participation; and the fourth one, whistleblower protection. The other meeting was the first agriculture working group meeting, which took place virtually on the 3rd and 4th of March, and this discussed critical issues that affect agricultural stakeholders worldwide and agreed on priorities for the year ahead. And these priorities are: 1, promoting inclusive market participation and food security; 2, empowering youth and women in agri-food systems; 3, fostering innovation and technology transfer; and 4, building climate resilience for sustainable agriculture. And also we held the first tourism working group meeting. It took place virtually. It was on the 5th of March, and it deliberated on how tourism can be used to change people's lives, communities, and the world. They also deliberated on and agreed to work on 4 priorities for the year, and these are: 1, people-centered artificial intelligence and innovation to enhance travel and tourism startups and SMMEs; 2, tourism financing and investment to enhance equality and promote sustainable development; 3, air connectivity for seamless travel; 4, enhanced resilience for inclusive, sustainable tourism development. We also held the first disaster risk reduction working group meeting. It also took place virtually on the 5th of March, and it discussed the acceleration of early warnings for all initiatives, which is a key global target set by the United Nations, and reinforced the implementation of the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction 2015 to 2030. South Africa sees this meeting as a key international forum to drive the agenda of a shared responsibility to build resilience, strengthen our cooperation, and drive meaningful action that is needed to prevent an escalation or exacerbation of risk. The meeting agreed on the following priorities: 1, addressing inequalities and reducing vulnerabilities; 2, global coverage of early warning systems; 3, disaster resilient infrastructure; 4, financing for disaster risk reduction; 5, disaster recovery, rehabilitation and reconstruction; and 6, ecosystems-based approaches for nature-based solutions. There was also a meeting of the first task force on food security, which was held virtually again on the 5th of March, and it discussed policies and programs to improve food security. Participants agreed to build a stronger, fairer, and more sustainable food system. They also committed to addressing key challenges like trade barriers, funding for food production, and the impact of climate change on food supply chains. Some of the priorities and outcomes, are: 1, strong food security policies; 2, stable food prices; 3, clear regulations and standards, 4 G20 action plan for food security, and 5 ministerial approval and implementation. Excuse me. The G20 outreach program held at the University of Vendathando on the 7th of March 2025 aimed at fostering wider public dialogue and participation in South Africa's G20 presidency. The gathering was used to encourage the people of this country to get involved in welcoming our guests to the country as we continue to host meetings in various parts of the country and to promote their culture and heritage. South Africans were also encouraged to tell the good story about their country. The following G20 working groups and task force meetings will take place until the end of March 2025. One is the first task force meeting on inclusive economic growth, industrialization, employment, and reducing inequality, which will take place on the 17th of March 2025 virtually. The first trade and investment working group meeting will take place on the 18th to the 20th of March 2025 virtually. The second health working group meeting will take place from the 26th to the 28th March 2025 in Durban. And the first climate and environment sustainability working group will take place from the 25th to the 28th March 2025 virtually. Information on these various meetings of the G20 and their outcomes can be accessed on www.g20.org or www.g20.org.